Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the next meeting of the Cleveland County Board of Commissioners. It's May 19th, 2026, 6 p.m. Posted date and time of the board meeting of the Cleveland County Board of Commissioners. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir, we have a quorum.
First, I recognize Commissioner Bridges, who's going to lead us in tonight's invocation.
Stand. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord, all the many blessings you've given to us, Father. We thank you for the people around the world that put themselves in harm's way to keep us safe, Father, and locally, our Sheriff's Department, all our first responders, Lord, we just pray that you'd be with them and help them, Lord. We thank you for this wonderful weather we've had, Lord, and we look forward to the rain you're going to send us this week to help our land, Lord. And as we go into our meeting tonight, Father, we just pray that you'd lead us and everything we said and done would be within your will. And thank you for the opportunity you give us to serve. Let's lead, guide, and direct. For we ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Sir. Next, Regina Brooks, could you come forward? So Ms. Brooks is going to introduce students from Springmore, who's going to lead tonight's pledge.
Thank you. Thank you, County Commissioners, for allowing these children this opportunity to be here. With us tonight, we have Callan Bowles, Christian Pizarro, Tucker Morrison, Kate Wood, and Miss Mackenzie Edwards. These men and women have took time to report to school early just to do the flag for our school. And then they make sure they come every afternoon and take care of that flag and fold it and properly put it up. They're really dedicated to the flag.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys
Y'all
for being
stand
here.
forward.
Please stand for the pledge. Stand, salute, pledge.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible.
Thank you guys very much. If you'll hold up a second.
Yes.
Phyllis.
Come on, guys.
Good job, guys.
All right, ready, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
All right, thank you guys.
Here you go, guys. So these are pens.
Thank y'all. All right, next we'll recognize any elected officials who are present. All right, next we'll recognize law enforcement that are present. See, there's our side. All right, next is recognize any county department heads.
Logan Roberts, Staff Attorney.
Hanson, Health and Human Services. Sure.
So if you guys would indulge me for just a second, I'd like to, you may remember the last meeting, Commissioner Hutchins was not here. He was at an event that was put on by the North Carolina Outdoors Foundation. The North Carolina Outdoors Foundation and the North Carolina, that has a Hall of Fame, the North Carolina Outdoor Hall of Fame recognized North Carolinians who have championed the cause of ensuring the future quality of fishing, hunting, and outdoor recreation opportunities for youth across the state. Inductees have records of exceptional service to the conservation of North Carolina's natural resources, with significant and lasting contributions made to preserving, advancing, and enriching outdoor recreation opportunities for youth. There were 3 inductees to the Hall of Fame in 2026, and one of them happened to be our very own Commissioner Hutchins. So Johnny, we'd like to recognize you for this. And I think we're gonna take a photo. So I have this big, I guess this is an eagle. Is this supposed to be an eagle?
Big bird.
So let me see if I can read this. I don't have my glasses here. So, the North Carolina Outdoors Hall of Fame, 2026 inductee, the North Carolina Outdoor Foundation recognized Johnny Hutchins for his significant contributions and unparalleled dedication to preserving, promoting, and enhancing outdoor recreation opportunities for North Carolina youth. Floor's yours. We'll give you this, and I think you've already received it, but we'll bestow it on you again here, so.
All of you, come on over here. Get in.
One, two, three. One more, one, two, three.
They told me that they had the shortest meeting last time because I wasn't here that day.
Thank you, John. Appreciate all you do. Appreciate the work you do in that area. Anybody else?
Good stuff. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
very much.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is a motion to adopt the proposed agenda.
So moved.
Oh, who said first? Second.
Any discussion? Hear none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Right.
Chair,
Yes.
you recognize that.
Did I not recognize? Oh, we'll go
Oh,
back. then.
we'll go back.
Yeah,
Excuse me. So we did vote on that though, right?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. Of all the ones I should have not forgot, is to recognize the veterans. So what veterans, any veterans we have present tonight, and I'll apologize for the oversight. Any veterans present?
Your name and service.
Emmanuel Hunt Jr., U.S. Army. David Army, U.S. Army.
David Cotton, United States Navy.
Do y'all, each of y'all have one of our pens?
Again, thank you all for your service, and I apologize for the oversight. So we did adopt the agenda, so our next item is the presentation. So this time I recognize Mr. Corey Steele, who's going to brief the board on the Amateur Radio Field Day.
Good evening, and I thank the commissioners for allowing me to come and address you on Field Day. So my name is Corey Steele. My ham radio call sign is W1AXX. I'm an amateur extra ham radio operator. I've been operating since 1977, a few days ago. So I am also the vice president of the Shelby Amateur Radio Club. Who here knows about the Shelby Amateur Radio Club? Okay, so one thing you probably also know is that we every year do a field day in June, and then we have the Ham Fest, which is the ham convention. The Shelby Amateur Radio Club is one of the oldest in North Carolina. It was established in 1957. And one of the reasons we have a field day every year, field day falls under ARRL. ARRL is the sanctioning body of ham radio. They were established in the early 19-teens. The first field day was occurred in 1933. And the reason for field day is that in many communities around the country, ham radio operators work in cooperation with local civic, emergency, first responders, Red Cross organizations that when a disaster occurs and the cell phone doesn't work or bad things happen, we can come in as volunteers and assist. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And so here's a little bit about what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how we demonstrate local emergency communication capability, how amateur radio supports public safety. We're going to talk about Field Day. So Field Day happens all over North America and Canada. Approximately 130,000 ham radio operators are on the airwaves on all of the bands that we have. And I'm going to show you those bands in a little bit. And we make contacts with each other. And what we do is we actually set up at the Weathers Arena at the fairgrounds as if we were responding to a disaster. So when you come in, and Miss Deb Harden has been there, we have different radios set up with different frequencies. We're doing transmission in digital. We're doing Morse code. We're doing all of the methods that are allowed under our license grant. And we do that, and we also invite the public to see what it is, to get people interested in ham radio. Because I'm going to say, in my club, I'm one of the younger people. Ham radio has been around for many years, and we have been in our club trying to encourage the next generation to come in. So we're reaching out to all of the organizations, whether it be Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, county commissioners, churches, whoever, to get people back into ham radio. It's still there, and it's still very much alive. And that's why we're here, to invite the community engagement. So let's talk a little bit about the Ham Radio Club. Like I said, it was established in 1957. Interesting fun fact, in 1956, 4 ham radio operators got together, and they had a barbecue in their backyard to talk about what they should do, and they decided they should set up an organization. That was their first Ham Fest. We're going to talk about later on. This year, Labor Day weekend is going to be the 70th Ham Fest. And we have some members who were children at the first one. So it's been around a long time. ARRL, the Amateur Radio Relay League, is the sanctioning body. They're based out of Connecticut. They are the people that are, you could say, lobbyists in DC to protect the radio waves. They are there to help us with legislative items. They are there to provide guidance, training. We also have the test questions. One of the things I can do as an amateur extra is I have the privilege of administering the ham radio test to anybody who wishes to take it. Myself and 2 other amateur extras have that privilege. So we do that usually at our meetings. We also are trained and organized in as network operators. And what I mean by that, there were groups. If you remember in the old days, there was a group called REACT. REACT was one group. There's ARES, and then there's also some of the Red Cross groups. And those have changed over time, and they have evolved. And a lot of people think, well, ARES died. Well, no, it's a lot of people forgot to communicate with each other. One of the reasons why many of the ham radio clubs around the country are doing what we're doing to remind everybody it still exists, and we want to keep that partnership. And we support public service emergency readiness. So we meet at the Red Cross Center. So we actually have once a month a meeting there, and we actually work in that EOC. When there's an emergency, we actually are in that location, and we help out when everything goes down. And I'm going to talk about a case study of that in a little bit. So what is our community capability? Independent communication infrastructure. Don't need anything except for repeaters, and we have mobile ones we use when we have to. It's good old RF, AM radio, always works. As I always say, when the aliens invade, AM's still going to work. You know, they made that very prevalent in the movie Independence Day. Trained volunteer operators, the FEMA, Red Cross, different organizations have training programs where we learn how to interface and assist and not be in the way of the first responders, how to follow the protocols, how to relay the messages, who is the chain of command, how to make sure that if an area needs to be checked, who do you speak to, who's the person on the ground in charge, how do you get the information, how do you relay it, the form you relay it in. Rapid deployment capability. Our ham radio club actually has a lot of equipment. We have portable generators, we have antennas. We did that for Hurricane Helene. The local club had some issues. We rolled out a generator, fixed their generator that was up on the mountain, got their repeater working, put up several sets of antennas so we could use different frequencies because the weather was pretty nasty, and also the mountains are not very, what's the correct word? Habitable for radio waves. So we had to try different things. In a couple cases, we ended up having to use Morse code because voice wasn't good enough. So emergency event support. We've done rodeos, we've done parades, we have done several events at the fairgrounds where organizations such as the Glock Festival, when Glock Gun came in, and they asked us to be there to help coordinate different things. So it's a whole range of items. And ARES is the support organization. We work with the emergency management, Red Cross, provide communication when everything is disrupted. We supplement first responder operation, and we can scale quickly. So, such as in Helene, we went from 12 people the first day to having 95 amateur operators all through Grandfather Mountain, Blowing Rock, all through that whole area to help find out what was going on and supplement, even though the local police and emergency services had decent communications, they were also, several of them were knocked out and their infrastructure went. And important to note, we don't replace first responders. I might get paired with somebody in a helicopter and it's like, yeah, we see flooding on I-40, or yeah, we see that, the road is washed out, whatever. Because if the local police cars can't get through, if Duke Energy, they had issues, we actually helped them get information support. So, and here's a case study, Hurricane Helene. Communications infrastructure was severely damaged. Cell was gone. There are still sections out in that area that there is no cell service. Radio frequency, amateur radio, and GMRS, which is another part, became the primary communications. We responded, we set up coordination. So the example in Western North Carolina, the Mountaintop Repeater stayed operational. It was the primary communication link. They did have, like I said, a generator failure, and our organization helped them fix their generator. That's the other thing about ham radio operators. We just don't buy equipment. We can do things. I can actually go in my mad scientist lab and build you a 4-meter transmitter. And I have the license to do that and the privilege to do that. So when these isolated communities needed help, we were there. And from a first responder perspective, all responders on the scene had both voice and data coverage, because we also do data. Ham radio covers data and has since the 1950s. So what I was doing, I live in the old Catholic church on Beaumont Avenue. I just came back from New Hampshire. Power was out, but I had a generator. I had people relaying messages from the mountains down through a couple repeaters to me in my ham shack. As you'll see, I have 3 radios. So I was able to use the top one to get relay messages off of 2-meter repeaters. And then I used the bottom 2 on different frequencies for people in Raleigh, in Spartanburg, in New York, organizations that were getting supplies. So I was literally taking my notes, following the protocols, and then making the requests on behalf of the people who could not communicate further to get us all kinds of supplies and who needed what shelters were open and where, what kind of medical needs were required. And so that, and all of that equipment, I have go bags. All of that runs on 12 volts and solar power and generators. I can throw that in my car and be off and help somebody. So that's the quick response capability of amateur radio. So in closing, what I'd like to do is invite you all to come, and the members of the public, to come to Field Day, June 27th at the Weathers Arena, and see what it is we do. We're going to be there noon to 6 to see how, because everything there, none of it's plugged into the wall. We are not on shore power at any point. We'll be doing Morse code. We'll be doing CW. CW is Morse code. High frequency, low frequency, VHF, satellite. In fact, fun fact, and Deb knows this about me, my neighbors look at me funny because occasionally at 6 in the morning I'll be out there with a funny dish. I'm talking to the ISS when it comes over. Every astronaut since John Glenn is a ham radio operator. Many politicians are ham radio operators. King Hussein of Jordan is a ham radio operator. Who is the gentleman who is well, many of them. So we just invite you to come and visit us. And also, we want you to know that this year, again, 70th anniversary. So please come and see it. We are actually, ARRL, the sanctioning body, is having their New Hampshire or the North Carolina convention at our Hamfest. And in the old days, if any of you remember, we used to get 30, 40,000 people a weekend. It's dwindled down, but last year we got people from 22 states. We had about 11,000 people show up. And so what I'd like to do, and just as these are the bands we use. These are the bands allocated by the FCC. And when you see the red and the green and the different EA and G, depending on what your license level is, shows you what bands and what part of the bands you're allowed to operate. I'm an extra, so I can do everything. And some places you have voice, some places you have CW. You can do, and the whole thing is it's an experimental hobby, but you learn by doing and you help out when needed. So, any questions?
Thank you, sir. Board have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I would like to thank you for a very professional presentation.
Well, thank you very much. I
Educated
appreciate
us,
that.
and more than that, thank you for what you do for the public out there in need. So,
Well, we appreciate that. And also, I just want to say, there's a great relationship between the county commissioners and our ham radio club, and we value that, and we thank you for all the support you have provided us in the past, and hope that you continue to provide us in the future. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for your attention. Oh, yes.
I would just say, as you said, I've been, and I think from someone that wasn't that experienced with, what you did, it was very educational to go, and I really enjoyed what y'all do and seeing how it
You were
works.
actually at a field day where you
Yes, I
saw
was.
what we were doing.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. I'm sorry. One of the things we do at field day is if you come, we have a station where you can get on the air and talk to somebody. There's a licensed ham radio. It might be me, might be somebody, where you can get in and talk to somebody anywhere in the country, depending on which channel, which frequency, how we've set it up. So please come and visit us, and also come to the Ham Fest.
Yeah, I come and visit you at the fairground
Yes.
every year because, you get us to sign in.
Yep.
And I guess my question is, don't we have 2 ham radio clubs in our county because one is set up at the fairground and the other is set up out at the lake?
So I've only been a member for a while. There was a time back a few years ago, my understanding is that there was something that occurred and we didn't hold the Hamfest at the fairgrounds. And then we started doing it again. There is only one club in the area. Now, if you come to the Hamfest, you will see clubs from other parts of the state. But basically, in ARRL, we are the Roanoke division. So there are only, you can't have 2, ARRL would not allow 2 ham radio clubs in a specific area because they would overlap. And we're the oldest, and nobody can come in and take it from us at this time. But you're right, there was a time we didn't have it at the fairgrounds. And again, that predates me. I don't know that story.
I've visited the ones at Moss Lake as well when there was 2 stations. I don't know if it's the same club or what, but you said the members are getting older. At one time, it lasted 24 hours, didn't it?
Well,
Around the clock.
So it actually goes for 3 days.
Yeah.
We start on Friday and go through Sunday. Many of the members are of a certain age where they do not want to go for 3 days.
Right.
So we're going to be there. I will be there on Friday helping. In fact, the people that I'm going to be there with several members of the sheriff's department, a couple of retired police officers, in fact, one of our members is a former U.S. Marshal. So there's a very heavy law enforcement and public service presence in our club. So we'll be there setting everything up on Friday. And then what we'll do is finish on Saturday. Because what we normally do, what a lot of clubs that I've done in the past, you go camping. It's kind of like a big camp-a-thon, kind of like kids out in the woods. We go out, we set everything up. Like one of our people loves to go over to Kings Mountain State Park and do Parks on the Air. Go over there, spend the weekend. Everything is all, because we show how to be self-sufficient. And so we do that. So unfortunately, that's why we're out recruiting, trying to get some newer members so we can do
Young
that.
people, we talked about this a little bit before. Young
Yes.
people don't remember when there wasn't instant communication.
Yes.
They have their cell phones and when there's a real emergency, you're there and,
Yes.
and you're all there is.
And you see what happens to them when the lights go out and they can't get on their cell phone. So yes, all right.
Sir, does ham radio work domestically and internationally, or?
Actually, I talk to people all over the world.
Okay.
So I actually last night was talking to people in the UK. So this is the trick about ham radio. It's understand. So you have to have a background. You have to have an understanding in physics. Part of getting the license is you need to understand certain things about electromagnetic waves, how the atmosphere, ionized particles. One of the screens, you didn't see it there, one of the screens I have over here on the left is the NOAA solar weather. Solar array, solar winds can change. Actually, when there's solar activity, it allows the charged particles in the upper atmosphere to allow me to transmit a wave. It's almost, think of it like a conduit, a waveguide. When you have enough of it set up, I can make long distance communications halfway around the planet. Another thing I do is something called EME. Now this is the freaky one. I have a certain dish that I use and I have a friend on the other side of the planet. So imagine you have 3 points. Here's the moon. Here I am at an equidistant triangle. I'll plan a couple weeks ahead when I know there's a full moon on both of our places. And we'll do what's called EME, Earth, Moon, Earth, where I'll actually send a signal to the Earth. It's scattered and reflected down on the other side of the planet. So using the moon as a satellite. Ham radio operators also have satellites in space. Like I said, we talk to the ISS also. So there's a whole science behind it. So.
All right, thank you very much, sir. We look forward to being out there at the event. Thank you much.
Thank you, Corey.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. So we've all been provided the items in the consent agenda. With that, is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor will say aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. So, to the regular agenda, the first one, all these are David's. So David, first one is the FY 2024-2025 audit response.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Cleveland County engaged a consultant through the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners to determine the root cause of the fiscal year 24-25 audit being late and to assess the county's readiness for the fiscal year 25-26 upcoming audit. The consultant, in a summary format, they looked at the audit timeline, key milestones, actual versus planned, the prepared by client list or the PBC list, and the submission log and journal entries, our final audit trial balance, as well as interviewing finance and other key staff. Now, as determined by the consultant, the primary cause for the late audit was multifold. First and foremost, it was the bank reconciliation backlog. That was the primary driver. It was the inability to complete the bank and credit card reconciliation promptly. And several factors contributed to that. During the fiscal year, the department attempted to convert bank reconciliations from Excel to the Keystone ERP system. and restructuring accounts receivable processes and staff positions. And then finance staff were actually instructed to discontinue the daily review of bank transactions and to complete bank comparisons through Keystone at month's end. That created a bottleneck. And the Keystone reconciliation module just isn't robust enough to provide reliable data for our larger accounts. I'm happy to report that staff has ultimately reverted back to Excel for our operating accounts. And another contributing factor, there were multiple changes without a full understanding of the impact within the finance department. The former finance management implemented numerous system and process changes that were not fully analyzed for operational impact and were not fully communicated to staff that would be impacted by the changes. And staff noted that the changes initiated by the former finance leadership were not adequately communicated or sequenced. Now, the current staff did say that they value innovation, but stressed that major process changes need to be implemented slowly with training and input from those who will be asked to perform the work. Some of the other outputs, some of the strengths that were identified by the consultant were the collaborative culture. Our current staff, they've really stepped up to share the work where we've had position vacancies, so they've expressed a willingness to help each other. There's a commitment to improvement. Staff is open to new tools, new processes. So our staff currently is really making the effort to get us ready for the fiscal year 25-26 upcoming audit. Now, some of the recommendation, this is the May part of the May 2026 portion of the audit update. So we are completing our bank reconciliation and getting that backlog done by June 30th. Of the 31 accounts that we do have, we have 3 that are in March. So one more month and those will be current, which means the balance of all of our other accounts, the other 28 are considered current because they're in the April timeframe, because that's when the last closed out month has been reconciled. So they've made great strides there. Some of the other recommendations from the consultant included to reinstate a detailed provided by client tracking file. And what they mean by that is assigning specific tasks related to the audit to specific finance staff with deadlines, and then also the monitoring the progress on a weekly basis and reporting regularly to myself, to the county manager. And what this will help us see and realize is, ensure accountability and the identification of any bottlenecks early on so that we can address those and that does not become a problem for us. And then also enforcing the cutoff deadlines for accounts payable and accounts receivables, and that's organization-wide. Also implementing monthly closeout and reconciliation, that's where we are right now. Modernization of our core financial systems, our Keystone ERP, and our tax administration software. Our tax software is operating off of a AS400 platform, and the Keystone is our finance software. And those two are not where we want to be as an organization, relying on our data to operate there. And what I am recommending and what the consultant's recommending is a truly integrated enterprise resource planning software platform. And I'll talk about that as part of the budget recommendation, but the consultant does recommend that as well. So in terms of where we stand right now for May of 26, in terms of audit summary, so cash preliminary financials, we are running preliminary trial balances. We're looking at our bank statements and investments and reconciliations there. In terms of debt, we are aligning our debt schedules with the debt service that we know we have paid or have to pay to make sure that those align. In the revenue side of the ledger, we're reconciling budget to actual revenue by fund. On the expense or expenditure and internal controls, general ledger, details for selected expenses, capital, and lease agreements or lease accounts. And we're also looking at the list of all the budget amendments and journal entries for the year, making sure that what we are plugging into our financial software aligns with the specific action approved by the Board of Commissioners. Now, closing that out, we are also looking at the fixed asset roll forward report, and that basically looks at all of the fixed assets that meet that definitionally, the additions, the deletions, the transfers, as well as our depreciation schedule, making sure that that's current. And then 3 of the GASB or the Governmental Accounting Standards Board's statements. One is GASB Statement 87, which deals with how we present our lease information, making sure we're in compliance with that. And the best example is our enterprise lease program, showing it as a debt rather than recording it individually within the department that has that asset. And then GASB 96 deals with information technology subscriptions. Currently, we do not have any subscriptions that meet that that threshold, but we still test what we do have to make sure that we are in compliance. And lastly is GASB 103, and that one is becoming effective as of June 30th of 2026 for all counties and all the municipalities, certainly within North Carolina. And that is a reporting finance module improvements, and just highlighting some of that. It is the management discussion and analysis letter. The letter will focus more on the analysis, and we're handling that, or we're addressing that through the schedules or the financial information that we report. We'll be adding an additional column for percentage of change, and why that's significant is now we have to add a note for any major percentage changes up or down. So when the reader is reviewing our audit, they will understand why there was such a major change. One example is going to be investment earnings. As we near completion of the Justice Center, our investment earnings are going to see a marked decrease. We anticipated this. We've had roughly $105 million within our accounts that we have not needed to draw down because we've had other pots of money that we can draw for the construction project. But now, as we are nearing the completion, we are drawing down that $105 million, which means that we will have less money available to invest next year. So where we saw $4 million in investment earnings, I'm projecting that we'll see $1.5 million. So it's a significant decrease, but it was anticipated. But putting that note in there will satisfy that requirement. So if there aren't any questions, or if there are, I'd be happy.
Sure we have questions.
Sure.
I guess mine are more in terms of, what we've done and what we're going to continue to do. David, I think you have, worked hard to bring this into shape, and I, as well as I'm sure all other county commissioners and the citizens of this county, appreciate that, because we shouldn't be in that position. We should always be transparent 100% on any of our financials, because it's the citizens' money. It's certainly not our money. I know you've put many long hours into trying to get this back to where it needed to be. Doesn't mean we didn't make a mistake to get it there, and I think we own our mistakes. When we do those things, I think it's imperative that we own those. So, getting the accounts up to date and balanced is a good thing. I think maybe the best thing I've heard you say tonight, which we all knew about, is the fact that we've got a new, very nice formatted report on a monthly basis that not only the commissioners are entitled to, but any citizen in this county is entitled to, as they should be. Okay? So that report is available to anyone that wants it. You know, we've still got some work to do. I realize that, but you know, we also made some department cuts in the budget this year, which are never easy, never hard, never popular, but sometimes necessary. You know, so you know, I hope we can continue to work towards what the citizens have elected us to do. Appreciate what has been done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
I would just say, you know, that we're all disappointed and we got in the shape we were, but we appreciate the transparency and getting back to where we need to be, and I know we will be shortly.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else?
All I do is repeat what just said. We appreciate what you've done, and we know it's been hard, but it had to be done. So appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So I'd say same thing, David, to you and all the staff. The report will be made public for those in the audience and that watching. So so I would ask you to prepare the best way to do that and get that released as soon as possible.
Yes, sir.
The report that you spoke about from the consultant. So as Tony or Commissioner Barry was mentioning, so the board has made some changes, so there'll be a monthly report, as he spoke about, that the board will receive and will be made public, or it's a public document. And also the board will get a quarterly report in this setting from the manager on the update of the current state of the audit moving forward. So that'll always, one was always required as the report out of the audit. So there'll be 3 more additional meetings or additional reports in the county commissioner monthly held meetings that they coincide with. And David's going to work out the proper schedule to do that. So they'll be on a quarter basis. And then we will also get the report that Tony was referring to. And then the board would like for you to release this report, get this report out to the public, to the citizens in the morning, or as quick as you can.
Yes, sir. We've got a schedule to go tomorrow.
I think it's already been spoken. Appreciate your work. And also, if you would pass along, if they're not here, they don't hear this tonight, those in finance has worked hard to get to this point after the lateness of the audit. So as you all know, the audit was due, technically the audit's due on December 31st. I guess it's January 1st, but anyway, it's due at the end of the year. So this year there was an extension, and due to the federal shutdown, it was due on February the 12th, 2026. And our audit was actually received by the LGC, or what's known as the Local Government Commission, on March the 17th. So it was just shy of 3 months being late, which we're not going to tolerate.
Yes.
But there's no need to belabor that. I think we've all said that. We know what the expectation is. So the expectation of FY26 is to be on time.
It will be.
So thank you for your work on that. And we ask that you get this report out to the citizens of the county on what the findings were that you mentioned about, so that there's no question of what was found, and everybody's clear on what was found and the actions that we're going to take.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? All right. Next item on the agenda is David as well. So this is also related to the audit. Next item is the audit contract and engagement letter for FY ending 2026. So this will be the next audit.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you again, commissioners. Annually, this time every year, all 100 counties and 500 plus municipalities, the manager presents before their board the annual letter of engagement and contract for an independent external auditing firm to come in and audit our most recent fiscal year that we're closing out. I am recommending that we maintain the relationship with TPSA based out of Whiteville, and the total contract price would be $75,500 to perform that work.
So that does require a motion. Any questions before we entertain a motion? This is just an engagement letter and contract to do the next audit.
If there's no questions, I'll make a move to accept it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? David, thank you for that.
Yes,
So
sir.
we're setting out for the next audit. Just make sure it's on time.
Yes, sir.
All right, the next item is the manager's recommended budget for FY 27.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. On behalf of Cleveland County staff, my budget team, the finance staff, it's my privilege to be the one to present the fiscal year 2026-2027 recommended budget. So as an overview, these are the topics that we'll be discussing, everything from our budget process, the commissioner's guidance, all the way through to the next steps. Beginning with the budget process, the pivot point for all local governments in North Carolina is the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. Now, the driver for Cleveland County's budget development are the Board of Commissioners. Through your priorities, through your direction, through your goals, through your guidance is what I disseminate with my staff, and we come back to you with a balanced budget based on your guidance and your priorities as a board. And that's all my department, agency, and office directors, consulting with our external funded partners. They are our service multipliers for the services that we either have a gap in or we don't provide, but the commissioners see the value in providing that particular not-for-profit funding so that they can provide those services to the community that are asking for those services to be provided. And then the budget team takes all of that and puts that together, and the outcome or the output is a balanced budget. So moving into the commissioner's top priorities, I will state that they range from maintaining that collaborative relationship with the school system and ensuring that their facilities, their capital needs are well funded. Also, this board, ever since I've been here and long before that, has placed a strong emphasis on public safety. And it shows, you just follow the dollars where those finite resources are allocated. It's obvious to the casual observer that this board values public safety. A safe community is a prosperous community, and the commissioners are investing demonstrates that. Also, want to also point out employer of choice. The commissioners, year in and year out, have invested in your staff. They are this organization's center of gravity. Without them, we're not providing the services that we're mandated to provide or that we're asked to provide. And the commissioners recognize the importance that our staff serve in that delivery of services, that customer service, that client service, how the paramount importance that has on our success as a community and as an organization. And then closing it out, the continued collaboration and leveraging our community partners. You have, I think, expertly navigated that balance year in and year out. Some of the general fund highlights, I will point out, it's working, 62 million is the projection for the ad valorem or the property tax, and that's coming in at about 2.27 million more than our current fiscal year. Our local option sales tax projected at 18.5 million, which is just over 2 million more than the current year. Another two important ones, this payment in lieu of taxes, the pilot, is directly associated with the Two Kings Casino. Current fiscal year, we budgeted $400,000. Now, as they near the end of their construction project, those pilot fees or payments will really start to ramp up. And it's beginning with fiscal year 26, 27. I'm projecting based on the percentage of completion where they are coinciding with our upcoming fiscal year that we're going to go from 400,000 to 1.5 million next year. And then I did mention investment earnings as it relates to GASB 103. I am projecting a $2.5 million decrease in investment earnings. Not unplanned. It was something anticipated. Once those funds are no longer available, and we've closed out the Justice Center, the projected investment earnings will level back out to where they were prior to the $105 million coming online, which is $1.5 million. All other revenue sources being equal, there's negligible change in those. Now, in terms of tax rate comparison and recommendations, what you see here is the county's tax rate at 40.5 cents current year. I'm recommending that the tax rate remain the same, not go up, not go down. There is a direct support for the public schools that comes from general fund that augments this 14 cents tax rate that is levied for the public schools. So in effect, what that does for the current fiscal year, it reduces that 40.5 pennies on our tax rate to 37 pennies because the direct support for the schools equals 3.5 cents this current year. So all other services, the 26 departments, all the external funded agencies, the debt service, every other thing that the county does is within the confines of that 37 cents. Now, the projections going into the future are getting much better for the county. So coming into the upcoming fiscal year, recommending a 40.5 cent tax rate. The augment or the direct support coming from general fund is being decreased to 2.2 cents, which means the leveraging of 38.3 cents of the 40.5 cents for all other services that the county does provide. And how that is happening is the value of a penny, of course, is increasing as we go through time. And I do anticipate within the next 3 to 5 years that this direct support public schools will actually fall off this chart because it will be reduced to zero, and the public schools will be able to rely solely on their tax rate for the full local appropriation. Fire district, the Rural Fire Commission, I am recommending that the 7 cents remain the same for the upcoming fiscal year. And that brings a total tax rate or tax levy of 61.5 cents. So it's the 40.5 for the county, the 14 cents for the public schools, and then the 7 cents for the fire district. Talking about the value of a penny, in 23, you can see that the value of a penny was right at $1 million with 10.6 billion for our total tax base. These were the tax rates in previous fiscal years. Revaluation occurred in the current fiscal year that we're in, where the tax base increased from 11.3 to 14.7 billion. So the value of a penny went from 1.1 million to 1.47 million. Projecting out for fiscal year 27, I anticipate that the value of a penny will be 1.55 million and the total tax base of 15.55 billion. And again, recommending a tax rate of 40.5 cents per $100 valuation. Where do the revenue sources come from? Now, this does not account for transfers in any federal or state dollars that are leveraged for social services, health, and other services that we do provide. These are truly just at the local level. So 75% of the county's total revenue portfolio comes from two main sources. The biggest being ad valorem at 59% and sales tax at 16% roughly. So those are two large buckets that account for, again, 75% of our total local revenues. This is an illustration of what all 100 counties have to wrestle with every single fiscal year. And I will say that the percentages will vary plus or minus 5%, depending on the jurisdiction. For Cleveland County specifically, 81% of all of the services that the county provides are mandated. And they fall into two broad categories. So you have program mandates with discretionary funding. Examples of that would be social services, Cleveland County schools, health. Basically, state statute dictates you will provide this service, but it is up to the Board of Commissioners as to what that funding level is. And then the other portion of that program mandate is funding mandate. And the most obvious example there is debt service. If county, you take on this debt, you will appropriate for the full amount of that debt before you appropriate a single dollar for any other service. Between those two broad categories, it comprises 81% of the county's total budget. So before we go appropriating any dollars for our budget, we know that 81% is tied up in mandates, only leaving 19% for truly discretionary programs and discretionary funding. And that ranges from finance, human resources, to information technology, important essential services, but they're not mandated by state statute. Where does the money go? Aligning the finite resources with the priorities and goals and objectives identified by the commissioners and how those appropriate at the function level is illustrated here. Public safety, education, and human services comprise 57% of our total budget spend for the upcoming fiscal year. Some additional general fund highlights on the expenditure side. Current fiscal year, the general fund alone is approximately $120.5 million. For the upcoming fiscal year, all funds are just under $264 million, and the general fund right here is right now balanced and recommended at $117.6 million, which is almost $2.9 million under the current fiscal year. And why that is significant, y'all know this, but for the public's benefit, once all revenue increases and expenditure additions were balanced out, we had $6.8 million in new expenses and expenditures. The driver being our new debt service for our Justice Center. But there were also social services unfunded mandates of $800,000. Child health and school nurses program, we have depleted other funding sources, so $950,000 to maintain those services, and then utilities and operational expenses increasing by 1.9. So factoring in $6.8 million in new expenses and expenditures, we were able to make a $9 million swing to $117 million, which is, like I mentioned, $2.9 million less than the current fiscal year. Balanced the budget, appropriated approximately the same amount of fund balance to accomplish that, and satisfy all of the statutory requirements that come along with this upcoming budget. And I think the county staff did a phenomenal job to make that $9 million swing instead of $6.8 million in new spending, which meant that all the departments had to experience reductions in their overall budgets. The vast majority of us saw, well, not significant, but we did see reductions in our overall budget. Continuing along with the highlights in the expenditure vein, employer of choice. Again, I cannot overemphasize the importance of the investment in staff that the board has seen and continues to invest in. They are truly our center of gravity. Without them, we are without purpose, and we are not providing the services that the community expects. And how we are accomplishing rising to be an employer of choice and maintaining that moniker is through strategic investments, our training and credentialing programs, and the recruitment and retention efforts that we make day in and day out. There were 34 positions requested in the upcoming fiscal year. I am recommending 10 of those. First, I am recommending 6 paramedics. We are building a new EMS base. And in order to, again, meet a priority established by the commissioners, which is based on response times, it's essential that we have a new ambulance crew ready to go in the final quarter, essentially this time next year, to staff that new EMS base as we move our paramedic EMS assets around the county to avoid creating any donut holes for response times. Also, I am recommending 2 housekeepers or custodians, as well as a maintenance technician for the Justice Center. We are taking on quite a bit of additional square footage, and these 3 personnel would be needed, and that's 3/4 of a fiscal year that I'm recommending and requesting that we fund. And then closing that out to make 10 is the emergency management planner. Within the realm of emergency management, I think we have grown, and we have seen natural disasters and other needs for a full-time emergency management planner to come online and really amplify what we're able to do. Continuing with general fund highlights, capital funding, recommending that we continue that flat funding or level funding plan and leveraging the enterprise fleet lease program, as well as the information technology and the radio maintenance replacement plan. And then the educational support recommendation. The Cleveland County Public Schools, that $33.3 million incorporates the teacher supplement, the annual capital, the debt service, and the current expense. And what that does represent is transitioning or decreasing the current operating by $1 million and increasing the annual capital by $500,000. Within the community college, the recommendation is just over $5 million. And for the community-funded external agencies, looking at 1.8 million total. That number may fluctuate. Again, all of this is in draft form and based on commissioners' further guidance and any input that we may receive as part of the upcoming public hearing. Now, closing out the general fund highlights, I do have the implementation of the indirect cost plan. I think this is a really important step for Cleveland County to take, in that it will represent the true cost of doing business as Cleveland County government. All of the external funded, or all of the external facing departments and offices that we have are able to focus on their mission and their goals by having these internal service providers, such as human resources and finance and information technology. And there's a cost associated with that. So what we are proposing, and as we've discussed in our budget workshops, is incorporating that into our budget disclosure, increasing transparency and showing the true cost of doing business as Cleveland County government. Next is the implementation of the debt capacity model, allocating a specific number of pennies to our debt, our current debt, as well as our future capital that we know in the short term, we may not know what we want in 20 years from now, but by implementing this model, we're going to set ourselves up for success moving forward well into the future. And it will take that uncertainty and that proverbial kicking the can down the road, so to speak, of we have a capital project, it's going to take X on the tax rate, and we're not in a position where we're looking at doing that. This, and through the wisdom of the commissioners, have seen the debt capacity model will alleviate that. That will flatten that uncertainty by building that capacity over time. So as debt rolls off, we can take on X amount of debt for this project this year and pay-go projects in year 2 and 3 and so on. So it's a really powerful tool to have in our toolbox. And then lastly is the implementation, again, of the integrated ERP platform that will address finance, recommending human resources and tax administration as well. Really starting there at the core. Tax administration, again, is responsible for the largest single source of revenue that we have coming into the county. Finance, all things pivot from finance, so making sure that that software is integrated and robust. And again, HR interfacing with finance for payroll, I think is really crucial. And that is reflected in our capital projects and not being funded through the general fund 10 fiscal year 26-27 budget. This would come from capital reserves if the board so choose to move forward with that. Moving into solid waste, I'm recommending the fee structure adjustment per the rate stabilization metric. The enterprise total budget is about 17.7 million. It is 10 million less than the current fiscal year, but again, this will require a note to satisfy the GASB 103 requirement, and it can easily be explained because, as you know, the county took on $10 million of a loan to build Cell 4. So that in and of itself explains the reduction. And I think it's really important to have those notes because when financial rating agencies are looking at these dramatic swings, to have the note that explains it, then that will help us preserve our bond rating, helping us to maintain the lowest possible tax rate. I'm sorry, interest rate, which has the best outcome for all the taxpayers. Now, closing out, some of our next steps, as we are here tonight, the budget presentation, and I am recommending a call to a public hearing for the June 2nd meeting, and that does meet the statutory requirement here of this budget presentation with a balanced budget message, be presented to the commissioners by June 1st. At May 19th, we've certainly met that. The budget public hearing that I'm recommending for June 2nd, as well as the budget ordinance being available for the commissioners' consideration. At June 2nd, we will be well in advance of July 1st, so that would meet that deadline as well. And the budget message, the budget detail, now that it's publicly been presented to the commissioners, will be available at the clerk to the board's office, our library locations, as well as online through the county's website. So we are making it as accessible as humanly possible and hardback, as well as digitally via the county's website. And Commissioners, that concludes my presentation of the fiscal year 26-27 recommended budget.
Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
What questions do we have?
You refer to the $10 million for landfill. That doesn't, taxpayers don't pay that back. The landfill pays that back itself. Is that correct?
100%. Yes, sir. Through the fees they charge.
And I got a question, and I don't quite understand, but it's a slide about 4 or 5 in the front.
Win.
Well, hold right.
Here.
Okay, right there where it says, 23, for 25 and 26, we got 37 cent, for the adjustment. Then the next is 3830.
Yes.
That's not a tax increase. If so, where's that money coming from?
No, sir.
What I'm saying here, so, our county tax rate is 40.5 cents. The general funds supports public schools, in addition to the 14 cents for that 33.3 million. So current year, that additional support equated to 3.5 cents, which meant that even though the county levied the 40.5 cents, we only had 37 cents available for everything else once you factor out the schools. I'm saying that prognosis is getting better, but we're still augmenting or supporting the schools out of the general fund by 2.2 pennies, which means that only 38.3 is available for all other services.
So the school system is getting the benefit even of a, 14 cents tax rate. You add the 3.5 to theirs, and they're getting a 17.5 cents tax supported levy. Now it is going down to 16.2. So theirs is, their funding actually increases by ours decreasing, just the direct support.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Just a comment, it's, 3, 4, 5 months worth of work. We really
Yes, sir.
appreciate the staff and all the work, many hours that's went into this.
Yes, sir. I'll pass it on. Thank you.
All right, board, if there's no other questions, then we need to set a public hearing. So I entertain a motion to set the public hearing for the FY 26-27 budget, which is the county manager's recommended budget, and any changes that we might make between now and then, to be held at the next commissioners meeting, which will be Tuesday, June 2nd, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in the commissioners' chambers. And also, so that it's fully transparent, everybody understands that the board chooses to do so, they do have the latitude to approve the budget following the public hearing, or they can wait 2 more weeks. But we do have to do it before the end of the month, the end of June. So with that,
I make the motion, we set the public hearing for June the 2nd.
I'll second that.
any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, so those are watching and those in the audience see, understand so the public hearing will be held on June 2nd, 6 p.m. here in the chambers, for anyone who would like or wishes to make comments, related to the FY 27, county budget. Staff, you guys have anything to report?
No, sir, Chairman.
Any of the board members have anything to report? So we have one item left as a closed session. For those in attendance, I think this will be quick, but you know how these go sometimes. So with that, at this time, I entertain a motion for the board to enter in the closed session for North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A6 to consider the qualifications, competency, performance, character, fitness, conditions of employment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public employee, officer or employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual public officer or employee.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, the board is now in closed session and we will reconvene in the conference. Okay, Phyllis, will you join us, please? Everybody back?
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, to report out during the closed session, the board conducted or finalized the annual review, performance review of the board clerk. During that session, the board also voted and approved 3% annual increase to the clerk's base salary. With that brings us to the end of our agenda. Entertain a motion to adjourn, but before we do that, make a reference that the next board meeting of the Cleveland County Board of Commissioners will be held Tuesday, January the 2nd, 2026, here in the chambers beginning at 6 p.m. Now, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries.